Golf. For the pros at Tallgrass, it's a game of big money and prestige.
We're going to have the finest tournament this golf course has ever seen. My God, we're talking TV, Roy.
A game where playing around implies much more than just 18 holes.
I think I like your shack better.
And a game where the term sudden death has very recently taken on a whole new meaning.
I've seen mutilations, amputations, and decapitations.
We're dealing with a maniac using some kind of a power tool.
His head had been severed clear off his shoulders. What are we going to do?
Now, they are faced with the dilemma of whether to call off the tournament.
Absolutely not.
But you still don't know what you're dealing with, do you?
Or confront the deadly killer. On his own turf.
Oh my God!
Blades. Just when you thought it was safe to putt.
Welcome to They Call This a Movie, testing the strength of friendships one terrible movie at a time. Subscribe to the podcast on iTunes and other podcast services by searching They Call This a Movie, and find us on Twitter and Instagram at TicTamPod. That's TCTAM Pod. Welcome back to They Call This a Movie. This is Anthony Del Vecchio. With me, as always, is Dan Aquino and Mark Meyer. Say hello, gentlemen.
Hi, friends.
Hello. A long time no see, guys. And yeah, I don't know if my body is still hurting from Comic-Con or the fact that I did the double shot COVID flu on Monday. So I don't know what joints are hurting for what reason right now. So I am an old man is what I'm saying.
I feel like it's the answer is probably all the things for the double shot.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, that's not going to spell a particularly good week.
I did realize, and Mark and I were talking about this on Sunday, doing 2 days is fun for the convention and all that. It's tough when you're in your mid to late 30s, I think. There's a lot of walking around, crowds, and you're just getting shoved, and people are, mean for the most part in the city. It's fun when you're in your 20s, your teens, your 20s and all that. But once you start, mid 30s, I think it's a little much. I think 2 is the max you should be doing the convention.
I always felt like I could see everything I want to see in one day, unless there was like a panel that I really wanted to go to, but that's never been the case.
You got it the right way, I think. One is good.
Yeah, I think the second day is a mixture of more our situation, where I like to be in town for the Saturday, and I've run out of things to do on my own. Only so many times I can go to the Nintendo store. But 2, it also allows me to, like, on the second day, I can break off from you and just stand in lines, for things and not feel like I'm dragging everybody to wait in line or, anything like that. I feel better on the second day splitting off on my own more so because I know where everything is for the most part.
Sure.
I don't know if you guys feel that when you go in the second day.
I was just tired. I was a tired old man.
Yeah. It's a long day, but it was a good time. Good time had by all.
Always.
I assume. I'm speaking for everybody. But this week, we were also watching movies. And this week is week 2 of 31 Days of Horror, our Halloween month. And this week was Mark's pick. So, Mark, why don't you introduce this week's movie?
Yeah, so essentially the genesis of this idea was we watched some other movie on Tubi, and the movie I chose was the if you sit on this screen, that movie will play next, like automatically, like the autoplay movie. And it was Blades, the killer lawnmower movie. And I just thought the premise was a great idea. Just that's all I knew. And then when I found out later, when Ant did a little bit more research on it, the fact that it was basically Jaws with a lawnmower got me even more excited to watch this movie. And it didn't disappoint in that sense. It's definitely like a poor man's Jaws, because there's only so much you can do without using the water as a separate character in a movie. But just the idea of transplanting the mayor for a owner of a golf course, and a couple of the characters are basically just lifted out of Jaws and put in this movie just as different people with different occupations. But I was surprised to see, and Ant brought this up too, the name of the pro golfer that shows up in this movie is named Roy Kent. And I thought that was a really good fictional golfer. And then Ant told me that it's been one-upped, as it is also the name of a fictional soccer player in Ted Lasso, where it might fit more appropriately. So, Dan, what I'm thinking is, I think the person that created Ted Lasso watched Blades and is one of us.
Sure. Yeah, that's more plausible than the reality, I'd imagine.
Yeah. The idea that the randomness that two different people can come up with the name Roy Kent for a fictional character is, I would say it's better probability that this was a nod to this movie in their own mind. Or if it's a British creator, maybe there was a player whose name was close to Roy Kent that I don't know about. But I'm going to stick with it that he's named after the Blades character.
Sure. I mean, there are two people in the world that have been named Wink Martindale, so
true.
Sometimes things just happen.
Yeah.
Okay, Dan, what about you? Where are you coming from with Blades?
Never heard of it. Never saw it. Even going through all the different horror movies and Tubi, Shudder, all that. Never saw it. I wasn't sure what to expect, and then when I saw Troma was involved, I kind of automatically shut my brain off. Where I realized, oh, okay, I don't have to worry about really following a plot, and I was super excited to realize I already knew the plot of this movie because I've seen Jaws 1,000 times.
Sure. Yep.
I was like, oh, okay. So I knew all the beats, I knew all the characters, and I knew the ending, which was, again, this was beat for beat. The characters were pretty much beat for beat. I will say it's very odd how this movie, and I'm sure there's others like Jaws, but Jaws seems to, whenever they rip off Jaws, it's always beat for beat, right? Because Cruel Jaws was practically the same thing. And I wonder if it's people are just paying homage to Jaws, or they just can't think of a better way to write a shark movie or like a horror movie in that term. It's fun, but it's also lazy. And I think with Troma, obviously, you're getting schlock. Going in, you're getting schlock. So you just kind of have to sit back and let it wash over you, right?
Sure. Yeah. I even think this might be even more faithful of a ripoff than I think any Jaws ripoff I've ever seen. Like, its commitment, as Mark would say, the commitment to the bit.
Yes.
That, like, they basically plotted out what Jaws does, like the plot points, and they're like, okay, how do we transition this to a golf course? Or, this the Mrs. Kittner scene. We got to have that. We got to have the scene where they cut open the tiger shark, but how do we do that with a lawnmower? Oh, then it's a grass clippings bag. We're ripping that open.
I laughed out loud when that happened because I knew the exact reference when they did that.
Yeah. Or the scene on the beach where it's chaos. We got to have that scene, but we'll put it at the 18th hole.
With the kid being picked up,
Yep.
Again, it's just incredible shot for shot.
Yeah, it's pretty funny, and it obviously this is a parody. You know, they know they're doing this, so it's not like Cruel Jaws when they're just trying to make money off of the name of it. As for me, I randomly watched this months ago on Tubi without any plans to cover this movie on this podcast. I think it was sort of that same situation that Mark said when he found it, was just that I was on TikTok, not TikTok, on Tubi, and I saw it, and I said, "Oh, this looks weird," so I watched it, and then it was obvious that it was a scene for scene, 1-to-1 ratio lift of Jaws, and that kind of made me enjoy it even more because it's so ridiculous to do that with a sentient lawnmower.
Yeah.
I know that we're dealing with a parody, and I know it's supposed to be silly and all that, but at the same time, we're here to review a movie, and I needed to ask this question. You know, obviously, Jaws is a shark; it's a living animal. It runs how it runs. It's fueled by eating and all that. A lawnmower runs on gas. We never see, like, wouldn't the lawnmower run out of gas throughout the movie?
Yeah, I think you're thinking too much into it.
Yeah.
It needs to be asked, like, or were we just going to sit here and review Jaws?
It runs on blood. I don't know.
That would actually be good.
I feel like that would have been a great caveat there. Like a nice little, like it needs to feed on the blood to maintain its course throughout the movie. I think that's great. It should have been mentioned.
Yeah. I also was thinking the entire time how they were filming, like getting this lawnmower to move, like where they wanted it on its own. Like, because I don't think they had technology to erase a person pushing it. You know what I mean?
Imagine some type of remote control.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the scale, like this wasn't like a normal, they even make mention of it that it's a different size lawnmower. I'm like, I wonder how many times they had to shoot those scenes where you just see the lawnmower out at the end, like out in the open.
It could be, so those scenes where you only see it, that could be it could be smaller than what you think it is.
Okay,
like,
that's true.
it could be scaled down, and it is a remote, like basically a remote control car, just to look like a lawnmower. I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm.
I really didn't look too much into it, but I'm assuming that all those shots that you actually see the full thing. There's not a person in the shot. All those things are usually POV shots from the lawnmower's perspective. I can't believe this is a movie with the POV shot from a lawnmower.
Oh, that was because the lawnmower just kept breaking down. The salt water from the trap. I guess the water hazards.
Yeah, Bruce the lawnmower.
Bruce the lawnmower. I wonder if they had a name for the lawnmower during production.
Yeah, I don't know.
It was
just Blades.
Unless it was probably Bruce.
You're probably right.
Yeah.
Mark's right though. If Blades were made today, it would just be some dude in a green suit moving the lawnmower around, and we'll get rid of him in post.
Oh, you don't think the lawnmower would be CG too?
The lawnmower would absolutely be CG.
It might be like this giant lawnmower.
Yeah.
Yeah, the only time we would see any like physical lawnmower parts are those POV shots. So that, because it's kind of hard to disguise CG. I'm talking on my ass a little bit, but when the real zoomed up shots behind the blades, I don't think has the same effect.
Sure.
if it's fake, if it's CG rather than just behind it could be a small lawnmower, but just that would have to be a real lawnmower.
Sure.
There's a great part in this movie that reminded me of a Simpsons bit where what's the guy's name? Roy Kent. Roy Kent. He's helping a soccer mom, or like a middle-aged mom with her golf swing, and she's basically, "Oh, I need your help, Roy," and she just wants to feel him up against her, and he's going to help her, and he looks into the grass, and he sees a machete, and it's like it looks like someone's hacking at something, and he runs to go see what it is, and it's one of the groundskeepers, and he's holding up berries, like, "Oh, do you want some berries, Mr. Kent?" And it reminded me of the Cape Fear episode where Bart's trying to go to bed, and Homer runs in with the knife. "Oh, like, Bart, do you want some brownies?" And, I thought that part was so reminiscent of that Simpsons gag, and it was my favorite part of the movie. It's that's what stuck out to me the most.
Yeah. This is a wild one because it's obviously a comedy at some parts. Like it does stray into that Caddyshack Animal House world where I especially thought of that when they're deputizing all the dummies, all the idiots of the and then he's like, I state your name, and they say, I state your name, the classic joke.
Yeah. No, I thought it was fun. It was Mark, you picked a good one.
Yeah. This was an easy watch. I really don't have many notes on it.
And when we were talking off recording, that this might be one of the best made Troma movies. And I know, Ant, you were mentioning that it might not be Troma's actual film, like they released it.
Yeah. So I think this was made independently of Troma. I do have the Wikipedia pulled up. But it was released through Troma, I believe.
And it's also, it makes sense because I found myself wondering throughout the movie, it's not very bloody. It's not over the top bloody.
Mm-hmm.
Like other Troma movies. You usually get the gratuitous gore and obvious fake like body horror, right? They'll have just like clearly it's a mannequin or a dummy being torn to shreds, heads getting cut off and all that. And I mean, there is some blood in this, but it's very tame.
Yeah. Filmed in 50 days in Cape May County, New Jersey.
Not bad.
Look at that.
I think the cast and crew probably had a good time on this movie.
Yeah, how do you not?
Again, you know what you're filming, so I don't think there was any delusions of grandeur.
Yeah, I'm trying to see what else the main guy was in. Maybe he was a dick, just like, man, I'm too good for this shit.
He Wesley sniped it?
Yeah. No, I doubt it, because this is the only thing he's ever been in.
Was this Robert North, right?
Yep.
Robert North. Yeah, I don't know of him at all.
He produced two Sword and Sandals garbage movies, Deathstalker and the Warriors from Hell and Barbarian Queen 2, The Empress Strikes Back, and this is the only movie he's ever acted in.
I mean, he wasn't terrible. No one was terrible in this movie.
Oh, that was just surprising.
Yeah, no, I agree. I was pleasantly surprised. I thought it looked like it knew what it wanted to do, and it didn't try to stray from that.
Yeah, it's got that great shot too of the lawnmower on the horizon with the sun in the back.
Oh, yes, that's a good one. And they even try to recreate the shots, which is very admirable. Right? They have there's a shot of Deke Slade, the Quint character. And he's kind of like on the top of his, I guess it's like a van, right? They're on top of their van.
Yeah.
Which is supposed to be the orca. Mm-hmm. And he's kind of like doling out instructions.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, it's like that scene where like Hooper drives the boat, Chief.
Hooper drives the boat, Chief.
Well, I got a kick out of that stuff because it's a movie that was done with an obvious nod and like appreciation to Jaws. Who doesn't love Jaws?
Mm-hmm.
Millennials, probably. I don't know.
Yeah. Every time I saw Deke, all I could think of is that if this movie was made today, if I got to remake it, I would cast Jonathan Banks from Breaking Bad as him.
Ooh, yeah, that's a good one. I thought you were going to say Michael Chiklis.
I mean, similar in tone, but yeah, I was thinking Jonathan Banks.
Yeah, that's a good one too. Yeah, I was I at first, again, you see whenever you see the Troma introduction, right, the skyline bathed in red, Troma production, you're like, all right, well, I'm just gonna like turn my brain off for an hour and a half and watch people just get exploded. But no, not here. Pretty good.
Yeah. So Blades from 1989 is directed by Thomas R. Rondinella, who really only directed shorts besides this. Stars Robert North, Jeremy Whalen, Victoria Scott, Holly Stevenson, William Towner, and Peter Ray. Has an IMDb score of 5.0 and a Rotten Tomato score of 38% audience score. There was no critic score. Budget $650,000 and no box office numbers that I could find. I also thought the woman that played the first time we see B, Norm's wife, the wife of the golf owner.
Yeah,
I thought was the aunt from Sleepaway Camp for a second.
Yeah,
having just watched that, we watched that this past weekend together.
That's right. Yeah.
For whatever reason, maybe it was the clothes, because she's dressed in like golf clothes, and it's similar to like the hat that the aunt was wearing. Thought it was her. It is not. Long story short.
See that. Real quick, during the golf charity event, the Pro-Am, they keep cutting to some random guy watching.
Yeah.
Who was that?
I'm sure he was in previous scenes, but I have no fucking clue.
Are you talking about the guy in the recliner?
Yeah. He's eating
the whole cutting. No, the whole cutting to him is that one guy that's cheating. He always played with him and always like accused him of cheating.
Right, but do we see him in a scene besides?
I don't think we see him. We hear him in a scene.
Okay.
He might have been cut from like something, but that's the whole point of that story, is that that's the guy that plays with him on the golf course and knows he cheats. Gotcha. So, but,
because at first I thought, I must have missed something. Like I was looking at my phone and I missed this guy. And then it's just like they kept cutting back to him. And like, who is he? Why is he so important right now?
Yeah, I just wasn't sure if we were supposed to know who he was, or if we had seen him before.
What I'm thinking is that his not introduction, but the first time you see him is something that got cut. And then they had to keep this in, I guess, because then what's the point of having this guy cheating, thing. And I'm just thinking from their perspective. I don't think it was needed, but they were like, we have to have somebody yelling, hey, that guy's cheating,
Why do we even have to have somebody cheating?
I don't know.
You like when he's killed? Like, oh yeah, I'm glad the lawnmower got this guy. He was a cheater.
Right. Yeah, because it's not like it's a morality play. It's not like it's not like the lawnmower killed that guy because he was cheating.
Right.
Mr. Simpkins didn't deserve anything.
Oh, that was, you see, when Mr. Simpkins comes into play, like, all right, well, obviously, Caddy's gonna die. The dog is Pippin. Pippet. Yeah. I'm like, all right, well, the guy's gonna hit the golf ball into the rough, and the dog's gonna go get it. And he's like, Caddy, where are you, boy, Caddy? And then obviously the dog's been mauled to death. But they switched it around. They had the old man bite the dust here, and not the dog.
Mm-hmm. It's always good.
Yeah, I'm a fan of that.
And I felt so bad for Roy Kent when the wife shows up of Simpkins, because how would he have stopped it?
Yeah, that was just to get the Kittner boy thing in there, where you knew and you let it happen anyway.
Yeah.
when she had a good line. He was so happy when he found out you were going to be here. He said you fixed his slice. So it's cool because it's an obvious. Again, we've mentioned a million times. It's an obvious nod to Jaws and all that, but they kind of put their own twist on it every now and then.
Yeah. No. It's a fun one. It's a fun watch, and surprisingly well made.
Yeah,
especially for $650,000.
It just shows what you can do when you're blatantly ripping off a better movie.
Yeah, and it's the 80s, so everyone's just giving people fucking money for no reason to make movies.
Yeah, it was a golden age.
Golden age of getting crap made.
Just content.
Yep. All right. I think that is it. Do you guys want to get into the plot?
Let's do it.
Sure.
All right. Dan, what do you got for us this week?
As always, going to give a quick shout out to our very good friends over at Geek Vibes Nation, Tia and Brittany. And we would like you to check out their podcast, The Top 10 with Tia. It's a weekly podcast where Tia and Brittany run down their top 10 list of the week. So if you enjoy top 10 lists, go check them out. We've been talking about them for a long time. They're great people. So yeah, go over to geekvibesnation.com and just search Top 10 with Tia.
Great. And we are going to take a quick break, and you guys are going to listen to the messages from friends of the podcast. And we'll be back in a second.
Hey, this is Ken M.
Padawan J.
Coach Duffy. From the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour podcast. Every week, the ODPH is talking sports, movies, TV, comics, and more. It's always a parlay of topics on each episode. You can find the ODPH on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Stitcher, Podbean, and wherever you find great podcasts, such as the one you're listening to right now. Don't forget to check out OchoDuroParlayHour.com, where you can find the links to all of the ODPH social media accounts, Links to the bands whose music you hear each week on the show, hashtag 607 podcast info, and parlay points are a companion blog section of the show. Thanks for listening to the ODPH. Now get back to your regularly scheduled podcast.
Welcome, travelers. Seems like you're looking for a story. Well, I got one for you. It involves adventure, friendship, and all sorts of...
Earl, why don't you tell him about that time I stole that big-ass melon?
Yeah, I was going for more...
Or you could tell him about the time I kicked your ass, Earl.
I wouldn't ever tell them.
Do I need to get my ref gear on?
Okay, everyone, shut up. Now come with me as I tell you a story from afar. Hey everybody, my name's David. I'm the DM for From Afar Podcast. From Afar Podcast is all about four friends separated by distance, but brought together by adventure. Hope you all stop by and give us a listen. Thanks.
And welcome back. Now it's time to get into the plot for Blades. We open on a bunch of teens having a party near the lake on a golf course. One guy, Don, doesn't get the hint that his girlfriend Debbie wants some dick, so it takes him about 2 minutes of convincing before they both go off.
He might be the least 80s male actor, or character, I should say, in one of these movies.
His buddy was ready to jump in for him. He was like, oh, you don't want to fuck your girlfriend? I'm more than happy to do so for you, buddy.
That's a good friend right there.
When he finally gets the hint, he takes his girlfriend into the high brush to fuck among all the prickers. But then an unseen assailant that sounds an awful lot like a lawnmower comes driving over to them. They scream and the credits roll. After the credits, we open...
I was going to say, I love how they made sure it never comes up again, but they made sure to let you know that it was the 13th hole for some reason. They lingered on the flag, and I'm like, oh, it's going to have relevance. And I'm like, nope, never came up again.
Yeah. After the credits, we open up on a golf course called Tall Grass Country Club. Not if Blades has anything to say about that, am I right, guys?
Yeah.
There you go.
It's a lawnmower.
Oh, you're right. I forgot about that.
Yeah. We then meet Kelly, who is the country club golf pro, as she assists the owner of the golf club to a gentleman's 99 on the front nine. She tells him that she has some ideas for the invitational at the country club that they are hosting. She tells him that she has some ideas for the invitational that the country club is hosting that coming weekend. And he says, let's talk about it back in the office. So we cut to his wife, B, flirting with not Kevin Bacon, the kid running the register in the pro shop. Norman, the owner, greets his wife and then gets on a phone call from the police. Kelly waits for Norman. She runs into Roy Kent, a professional golfer, who B also hits on. And Norman introduces Roy as the new club pro, demoting Kelly to assistant.
Now, you guys are a lot easier or able to place which characters are which.
You just call us easy?
No.
You just call us easy?
No, I said it's easier for you to...
I'm just joking.
Okay, I was like, wait, did I misspeak? Now, I just thought the Roy Kent, is that by any chance the Roy Schneider character, of the movie?
Yeah. He's Chief Brody.
Okay, so that could be a nod, too, why they named him Roy, anyway. Yeah, I don't know. Just came to my head.
I didn't think of that, but yeah, it's definitely possible. Norman then takes Kelly and Roy to go meet with the groundskeepers, who say they have a problem he needs to attend to. They go out and find one groundskeeper in shock, and the other one, Lyle, runs away. And we find two bodies mutilated in the sand trap. And for some reason, because he is the golf pro, this is Roy's responsibility.
I thought that was funny. What are you going to do about it? What? Nothing. I'm not law enforcement.
I love how everything becomes Roy's responsibility when something goes wrong at the golf course.
He didn't read the fine print where he has to maintain, teach golf lessons, be the pro there, and also solve murders. That's standard golf operations.
Even so far as watching the interrogation of Deke later.
That's right. Yeah, what an odd job he has.
Yeah, didn't sign up for that. Wasn't in the job description, I could tell you that. And so Roy does the only thing that Roy knows to do. He goes to drink in the club. So Roy gets his drink on, and Norman brings the police chief over and introduces him to Roy. And the police chief says something to the fact that it must have been someone dragging bodies across the course, not someone that killed somebody in the course. This matter is out of their hands, and it shouldn't interfere with the golf tournament that's happening this weekend.
I do want to ask real quick. Now maybe I missed it, but the two teens at the beginning who were mauled, they're not in the sand trap, correct?
No, they aren't. They are in the high brush.
So does that mean the lawnmower physically drags them to the sand and buries them.
Well, it does do a lot of dragging.
Yeah.
Like it drags Squire, the cheater.
Oh yeah. I guess when it catches onto you, it just kind of like pulls you back.
Yeah, and Deke gets dragged too.
Yes. Okay, now that makes more sense. I was wondering, how did it get them there and then cover them with sand?
Yeah, I mean, it's probably just, the blades just kind of probably just kicked up sand over it.
Okay.
So Norman then calls over Kelly to reintroduce her to Roy, and he and the police chief leave. Kelly gives Roy shit for stealing her job and for being a washed-up golf pro. And Roy basically says that's too damn bad and continues to drink as Kelly goes back to work. And Roy then goes on the course to practice his putting and meets Simpkins, an older club member with his dog who was a big fan of Roy's. They have a friendly chat, and then Simpkins goes off to play a late 9 holes. Simpkins takes a few swings and winds up putting a ball into the deep brush. He goes after it, leaving his dog behind, and then immediately gets munched up by blades off screen. Back at Roy's house, as he unpacks, the doorbell rings, and it's Bea, Norman's wife. She invites herself in with some Johnny Walker Red and pours them both a drink. She starts
for black, huh?
Nope. She starts some small talk, which then leads to talk about Kelly. Bea mentions that Kelly was once a caddy at the club and is too much of the ambitious type, as she says, and he should be wary of her. And then they fuck. Our protagonist and hero fucking the wife of his boss.
As you said, it's not a morality play.
Yep, it's true.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I find it funny that, Roy nails the boss's wife, and then Kelly has a problem with it for some reason.
I mean, well, this from her perspective, I would think that she has some inkling that this has to do with the fact that he was hired instead of her.
Oh, okay. Okay,
right?
I didn't catch that.
Yeah, I'm sure she has a feeling that has something to do with the fact that he was hired into the position that she wanted.
Because I thought it was just strictly like, oh, I'm annoyed that you slept with somebody.
No, I think it's more like that's pretty unprofessional, and also, that seems like there's, ulterior motives at play.
Well, it's definitely unprofessional. I would go as far as say that. Yes. That's a nice welcome, though, if you're Roy. Hell of a day. There's
saw a dead body.
Then you fuck.
Saw 2 bodies. Played some golf. Had some whiskey, and fucked my boss's wife.
That's how you get high fives in the locker room.
Yeah, probably not from the boss, though, I'd imagine.
No.
Heard you fucked my wife. Yeah.
Get it,
How
bro.
is she?
This guy's a fucking pro.
Did you play the front 9 or the back?
Oh,
That's
you know what I mean.
golf humor for you guys.
Then Kelly shows up at his door with a peace offering plant, and Bea is none too discreet over the fact that she's fucking the golf pro. Kelly gets flustered over this and leaves. The next day, Roy drives around on a golf cart watching some golfers and goes to see Kelly, who's still fuming over the fact he's fucking Bea. She tells him to go over to hole 8. There's a problem that needs his attention. At hole 8, it seems like absolute chaos as people are just driving around on their carts. Caddies are looking at porn, just like mass hysteria. And Roy shows up, and apparently the problem is that Simpkins' dog is sitting on the course, refusing to move. And the dog brings Roy into the thick brush and right to the bloody sweater that Mr. Simpkins was wearing the day before. Roy backs up in shock and sees a random bald guy watching him close by, and then he vanishes. There's a meeting, and the owner says that there will be a full investigation, but there will not be canceling the invitational. After the meeting, Roy meets with the kid transporting the body, who's like 16, but he's also like the coroner. And the kid said he's found a chopped up golf ball with the body.
I thought to myself, he removed that from a crime scene.
Yep.
Right? Does he have the authority? I don't think he has the authority to do so.
No.
It makes me wonder what else he's taken from crime scenes.
Yeah, it's evidence. I think there is a moment in this where this tries to make you think that this guy is the killer.
Ooh, really? That would have been interesting.
Yeah. There are just like moments where it just like lingers on him a little bit, and just like he has weird interactions with Roy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now that brings up a good question for you guys. Are you happy with the sentient lawnmower angle, or would you have liked it to have been someone wielding the lawnmower?
I like it because it's just so stupid, right?
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah. Like I think it would be a letdown if it was a real killer.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know if it would be a real letdown to me, for me personally, but I do like the sentient lawnmower angle better.
Yeah, I just think it's a different movie. right?
True.
It's essentially a lawnmower. You get what you know what you're getting with a movie like
Mhm.
that. It's just absurd. The
Yeah.
idea of it is just completely absurd. So the killers is like, oh well, it's just kind of like a serial killer movie with kind of like a Jaws template on it. Meh.
Yeah, then I guess if it's a person, it just turns into your run-of-the-mill slasher movie.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I do think the sentient angle is really good. I don't know if I would have been disappointed though if they decided, because you don't see a lawnmower used as a slasher weapon, so
Sure.
it's something different. But yeah, I agree with you.
And then he gives Roy the chewed up golf ball as if it wasn't evidence. And then Roy goes off pondering the situation. And then he comes across that bald guy he saw earlier and a blood spot that isn't blood, it's oil. As Roy tries to get information from the mysterious stranger, the guy runs off, telling him to wait there. Roy then hears a motor running and gets scared and runs away. He runs out of the woods and runs into Kelly on a golf cart, who doesn't hear or see anything, so he gets in and they leave. Roy ties one on at the club as Kelly tries to pull some information out of him. She tries to plead the case of why they shouldn't cancel the invitational. Roy then asks about Deke Slade, which I guess is the name of the bald guy, though we have no evidence that Roy ever got his name. Apparently, Deke was a groundskeeper at the club years ago that was fired for some reason.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. Did they ever hint at what that was? Like, I felt like that was needed to keep the suspicion on him. You know what I'm saying?
Between this and the USS Indianapolis speech that he gives, no.
Yeah. Okay.
Troy goes off to help some housewives in their golf swings and then maybe fuck them later. And then sees Deke in the brush. So he goes to confront him, but he runs into the dumb groundskeeper Lyle, who's using a machete to chop some berries. Later, Kelly is teaching a lesson for a bunch of club members, showing them some pointers on how to tee off. As she demonstrates, she hits a few balls and has a kid go shag them, but she hits one of them in the deep brush, and the kid winds up getting slaughtered by blades.
Were you as surprised as I was that this didn't turn into those creepy guys trying to make her bend over, or was that what was going to happen at the end, like some kind of sexist thing for this?
It didn't really cross my mind, to be honest with you.
Okay, I just thought being in the 80s, that would be the obvious joke they want to make.
Right. Another meeting takes place, and the chief of police and the owner talk about how they're going to start a course-wide maniac hunt, deputizing anyone that wants to help search, but they are not canceling the invitational. So the maniac hunt begins with a whole bunch of members arming up in fatigues to go hunting this quote-unquote maniac. The owner says they're real quote-unquote team players, as Norm tries to talk some sense into both Kelly and Roy. The chief of police quickly deputizes all the idiots, and they set off to try and hunt the maniac, and they're just ripping the course to shit. And Ray has to stop one guy from burning down the forest. And he also has to stop Lyle, the groundskeeper, from killing two dudes from ripping up the course with their golf cart. Roy and Kelly then retreat back to the club and drink. Kelly asks him about what happened in his career, and he basically says that he just kept drinking and got too good at it. Lyle comes in and says they caught the maniac, so Roy and Kelly come out to the crowd, and it's Deke. The crowd captured him with a lawnmower, and the whole crowd is celebratory in the fact that they caught Deke. They take him away in a police cruiser, and they take his lawnmower in as well. Roy is skeptical, though, and then he gets slapped by the Simpkins widow, a la Mrs. Kittner. The police interrogate Deke, and he says it wasn't him, it was a sentient lawnmower. And for some reason, both Kelly and Roy get to watch him and get interrogated the entire time. But everyone is satisfied with the arrest except for Roy. Kelly and Roy try to plan the invitational, but Roy is distracted. Says that the mower tracks he saw were too big for the mower they found. Kind of like the tiger shark. So like the tiger shark, Roy and Kelly go to cut the grass bag on the confiscated lawnmower. Cut open the bag, and the only things in there are grass clippings, golf balls, and a porno mag. Roy says this means whatever it is still out there, and they'll have to cancel the tournament. Kelly mentioned that she saw a couple of members, the Bonners, go out after the course was reopened, and they're in danger. So they go out on the golf cart and come upon the Bonners' cart, which is half submerged in the lake. Roy goes to investigate, and then they hear a motor running, and they run.
And that's supposed to be Ben Gardner's boat.
Right, exactly. Yeah. There's a scene at night when they go and try and find his boat. The next day, they pull the golf cart out of the water, and the owner says the Bonners must have been drunk, crashed the cart, and walked home. And he will not be canceling the tournament, and stresses the importance of the fact that they'll be getting TV coverage. The tournament begins. Roy and Kelly have walkie-talkies as they walk the course. They also have the caddy pool watching the course for them. and they're also participating in the golf tournament, and Kelly starts off in the lead with her amateur. And
There
Roy
was-
winds up getting... Okay.
I'm sorry to interrupt. There was a scene where the was his name, Norm, right? The golf the owner.
Mhm.
So Norm even sounds like the mayor from Jaws at one point. Like, we're not shutting this down. There's TV, TV for God's sakes or whatever. He even sounds like the mayor. He has the cadence of the mayor when he's telling them those beaches will be open. It's going to be the best 4th of July we've ever had. And it was like a spot on impression. Like, man, like they really are paying attention to like the subtle nuances. And maybe I'm giving it a little bit too much credit, but they kind of nailed some things.
Yeah, definitely. And Roy winds up getting paired up with B. Tournament continues. Deke watches from prison. Lyle watches from a bar as he tries to pick up a woman. Day goes on without an incident for the most part, and then there seems to be some commotion on 18, which happens to be at the same time Kelly is on 18. Roy makes his way over to there, and Kelly makes the putt, but then the lawnmower shows up and runs hog wild, running over a golfer that was cheating, and the crowd erupts in chaos. Back in the office, Norm's phone is ringing off the hook with reporters asking for a comment. Roy demands that Norm have the police chief release Deke, which he makes a phone call, and Deke gets released. So Roy and Kelly then head out to meet with Deke in a junkyard. They ask him to help catch this sentient lawnmower, and he tells them that $20,000 is his price. So they agree, and they convince Deke that both of them are going with him. They start packing supplies and start loading it into a reinforced van, sort of like that one from the Dawn of the Dead remake.
Okay.
And then they head out. And Kelly brings along something that she, quote-unquote, heard about once.
Why? I don't know why they left the one guy behind. You would think you would want more people, the merrier, when doing this.
Well, because it's got to be 3.
Yeah.
The Jaws thing. Got it. Sorry, I forgot for a second.
The commitment to the bit, Mark.
I gotta respect it. I get it.
So now I think the issue there, since they're going for the Jaws bit, I don't know if they really have a Richard Dreyfuss character, right? I don't think Kelly would equate to Richard Dreyfuss.
Right, Kelly is the Richard Dreyfuss in this scenario, but yeah, I see what you mean. She's not an expert in
lawnmowers.
Yeah.
Right. Like, yeah, we called in an expert that from the mainland.
Well,
or whatever.
she'd have to be a college-educated expert, right? Book learning.
Yes. Yeah, those are city hands.
Yeah.
That's what she would tell. I guess that's how she would condescend to Roy, I suppose. Like, oh, those are golfers' hands. They've never touched a machine before,
Well, no, Deke would condescend to her.
Oh, right, exactly. My fault. Yeah, those are city hands. Yep. So yeah, I think that would have made more sense because I guess her and Roy split the Chief Brody character in a way.
Yeah, it's probably closer to that more than she is a true Hooper.
Yeah.
So they make it to the course and they start searching for blades. They chum the water by dropping hay bales with balloons attached to them as they hunt.
Pretty clever.
After they set the hay down at each hole, they go back and check some of their traps, see a couple with evidence of the mower, and go quote-unquote fishing as they drag a hay bale behind them. They find the body of the last golfer that the mower killed, and then they see the mower on the horizon, which is a great shot. They bunk down for the night in the van and have some drinks, and Deke goes into a long monologue about how this mower is his father's, and it killed his father back when he was head groundskeeper of this country club. And the mower is back and starts ramming into the van, so they go to the roof and start shooting at it with shotguns until it drives away. In the morning, Kelly tries to prove herself by changing the tire on the van after the mower flattened it. As she does, the mower shows up and starts bearing down on her. She gets it on just in time, and Roy hits the gas and drives. Kelly jumps in and drives away just in time, and the mower escapes through the brush.
Again, that scene where Hooper is tying off the barrels, right?
Yeah.
Like, don't wait up for me.
Don't wait for me.
Yeah, it's like the spitting image of that scene. It's phenomenal. It's so funny. Like, I'm sitting there laughing at this, just like, man, they committed.
Yeah. So Roy crashes the van into a tree, and the van is then out of commission. Then Kelly reveals what she brought along with her, sugar, in order to put in the gas tank. So they set up a plan to lure them over towards them with Deke as bait. Chases Deke back to the van, and Deke jumps onto the roof, but the mower runs into the truck, knocking everyone off balance. Kelly can't do what she was going to do with the sugar. Deke falls down, and Deke gets his ass eaten by the lawnmower. The sugar is the shit.
Whatever he has in the syringe, right?
Yeah.
And I was thinking, what's going to be the cage? What's going to be the shark cage here? But they wound up not doing it because you literally can't.
Yeah, it's also the MacGuffin that never pays off.
Right.
I was just going to ask you what the sugar was connected to in Jaws. So good getting out in front of that. Yeah.
Yeah. So the mower drags Deke away. The van's tires pop, turning it on its side. The mower comes back, starts running into the van again. Roy throws some C4 on the mower, which sticks. The van catches fire, and Roy and Kelly have to run as it explodes. Then the mower chases after them, but then Roy starts hitting golf balls at it, and one of them hits the C4, and it catches fire. And the mower goes crazy, drives into the lake, and explodes. And his "Smile, you son of a bitch" is a simple 4
in slow motion.
Yeah.
Iconic.
Yeah. And then Roy and Kelly walk into the sunset. And
did she ask him what day it was?
She did not. But it's that scene.
Basically. Yeah, I was like, what day is it? Wednesday? No, Thursday.
I used to hate the water.
Can't imagine why. Well, yeah, that'd be hilarious. I used to hate playing golf. Can't imagine why. There was a part where they're in, I forget whose house it is, Kelly's house. It even looks like Chief Brody's house in a way.
Yeah.
Like, wow, just these little subtle nuances. Like, that's,
Yeah,
listen,
there's
not a great movie, but I respect it for what it is.
There's a good attention to detail in terms of what they were setting out to do and how they accomplished it,
Yeah.
It's
It did what it set out to do, like we said.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's Blades, and we're going to take a quick break, and we're going to come back, and we're going to play a little bit of a game. But before that, you guys are going to listen to some ads so we can pay those bills, and we will be right back. And welcome back. And now we have a segment which I'm going to call uncreatively Jaws Mad Libs. So, as we mentioned, this movie is basically a ripoff, parody, whatever you want to call it, of Jaws. There are very specific scenes that they parody and lift right out of the original movie. So we are going to do just that and come up with our own movies. So before this podcast, I gave these guys 10 prompts for some words, and I took a plot summary off of IMDb, and I plugged these in. So now we have 2 brand new movies, one created by Mark and one created by Dan. So we're going to go through it. So Mark's movie, maybe we'll come up with titles for these too at the end. But Mark's, it's a hot fall day on Amity Mountain Range, a small community whose main business is its museum. When Mick Foley, Raw Commissioner, discovers the remains of a tiger attack victim, his first inclination is to close the museum to tourists. This doesn't sit well with John Fetterman and several of the local businessmen. Mick Foley, Raw Commissioner, backs down to his regret as that weekend a young boy is killed by the tiger. The dead boy's mother puts out a bounty on the tiger, and Amity is soon swamped with amateur hunters and electricians hoping to cash in on the reward. Local electrician with much experience hunting tigers offers to hunt down the creature for a hefty fee. Soon they, along with an expert from the Meteorology Institute, are out hunting the great green tiger. As the Mick Foley Raw Commissioner succinctly surmises, after their first encounter with the creature, they're going to need a bigger airboat. And that is Mark's movie.
Very nice. Mark and I shared one thing.
Yes. So, tiger, called his claws.
I was just thinking that.
Oh, you can't call it stripes because there's already
can't call it stripes. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So here is Dan's. Same synopsis, but with Dan stuff. It's a hot summer on Amity Canyon, a small community whose main business is its zoo. When the new principal discovers the remains of a gorilla attack victim, his first inclination is to close the zoo to its tourists. This doesn't sit well with the mayor and several of the local businessmen. The principal backs down to his regret as that weekend a young boy is killed by the gorilla. The dead boy's mother puts out a bounty on the gorilla, and Amity is soon swamped with amateur hunters and electricians hoping to cash in on the reward. a local electrician with much experience hunting gorillas, offers to hunt down the creature for a hefty fee. Soon they, along with an expert from the Biology Institute, are out hunting the great red gorilla. As the principal succinctly surmises after their first encounter with the creature, they're going to need a bigger golf cart. There it is. There's Dan's.
I like the idea that we have electricians hunting down our animals. That's pretty cool.
That's pretty good.
If not them, who?
Right. Again, I think they know what they signed up for.
I liked Dan's for being as close to realistic as you can get within the Mad Libs of a plot of a movie. And then I also like the insanity that the last paragraph of mine went into. The electricians and meteorologists fighting a green tiger with an airboat.
No, that was a lot of fun. I see. My first instinct wasn't to go silly because I didn't know what we were doing, and I was like, all right, well, I'll answer these 10 questions and whatever they're for, they're for. And then I found out later it was going to be Mad Libs. Like, oh my god, I picked the most boring things ever.
Well, maybe next time I'll let you know. I didn't want. I figured if I let you know, then it would sway how you answered it.
Like purposely going out of yeah.
And I think mine could have been slightly better if I interpreted 2 of the questions differently. Because when you said authority figure, I thought of like a singular person, not like a title.
Right.
Which is why Mick Foley Raw Commissioner, which I'm glad you read the entire title.
Multiple times.
And John Fetterman instead of like a senator or president or something.
Right.
But yeah. Yeah, the only one that wasn't a joke that sounds like a joke is literally, it was just the first thing that came to my head. I don't know how Dan did it. But the airboats one is I just got done listening to the college football podcast I listened to, and they have one of the what's it called, vanity URLs that like directs to their website is something called pre-owned-airboats.com. And that was why airboats came into my mind there.
I like it.
Yeah. And that's Blades. Fun movie. It's on Tubi. You got a chance, watch it. If you like Caddyshack and Jaws, did you even know that there's a movie they combined the two? I bet you didn't.
Now you do.
And they took the best parts of both.
Yep.
And made it one very entertaining movie.
Yeah. But that's it for this week. We'll be back next week as we continue going through our horror movies. I guess we should announce eventually we're going to have a poll for the end of the month on our Twitter to choose our last movie of this month. I think we're going to settle on Halloween sequels, as we do have Halloween Ends coming up this month. So yeah, that'll probably come out on the Twitters soon.
I guess the only one off the table is definitely 3, because that will win. So
we've already done it.
Yeah,
we've already covered 3. Yeah, but there's plenty of bad ones. I mean, depending on what you think of the Rob Zombie movies, 5 and 6 are pretty bad. Resurrection is pretty terrible. The Halloween Kills is pretty bad too.
40 years ago.
40 years. Evil dies tonight. But so check us out on the socials, TikTam Pod on Instagram and Twitter, and on TikTok at They Call This a Movie. If you are listening to this, you probably know how to find us already, but we appreciate the listens. If you want to give us a 5-star review on all your podcatchers of choices, do that, because that helps us out, I assume. But yeah, that's it. That's Blades. Great time. So that's their episode. As the director of Blades is Thomas R. Rondinella. So for Dan Aquino and Mark Myers, this is Anthony Delvecchio telling Thomas R. Rondinella, well, you certainly made a movie, didn't you? Thanks for listening to They Call This a Movie. Subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts, and be sure to check us out on Twitter and Instagram at TicTamPod. That's TCTAM Pod. You can also check us out on TikTok at They Call This a Movie.